Hi, and welcome back. We're back with Sammy Keys and the Hotel Thief. This week we'll read chapters 13 and 14. Chapter 13. I had company. And I'm not talking a clothes moth or something, I'm talking big company. All of a sudden my heart's exploding and I can't breathe, and what I want to do is jump right into Officer Borsch's arms and cry, "Help!" I turn my head just a little bit and crank my eyes over as far as they'll go, and there, staring at me from behind Graham's winter coat, are two of the biggest eyes I'd ever seen. I tried screaming, but nothing came out. Nothing. Then, in a flash, he jumped out from behind all those hemlines, knocked over a stack of shoeboxes, clawed across my back, and hightailed it out the door. My little buddy, Dorito. And he left the closet door wide open. Now, it's one thing that he scared me to death. It's another that he made all that racket. But in the middle of all those adult shoes, sticking out like raisins in a chocolate chip cookie, are a pair of high tops. A pair of high tops with legs coming out of them. Officer Borsch jumps a few feet off the ground himself. He creaks and squeaks and says, "What?" The next thing you know, Grams is going on and on about her mischievous cat, and the closet door is swinging closed, and I'm in the dark in the middle of an avalanche of shoes, safe again. Now, sitting there in the dark, waiting for Grams to come back and tell me the coast is clear, I started thinking, first about Officer Borsch and how he didn't believe me, and he didn't, I could tell. Something about the way he looked at me when I was over at Marissa's. Something about the way he said, when he was looking out Graham's window at the Heavenly Hotel. Officer Borsch thought I was a liar. Then I thought about Mr. Kahn not believing me about Heather Acosta, and how even Grams had almost believed Mrs. Graybill over me. Why did everyone think I was a liar? Being trapped in the closet was starting to feel like being stuck in the box. And suddenly all I wanted was to bust out from under all those shoes and hemlines and prove that I wasn't lying. And tickling the back of my brain was this feathery kind of feeling that everything I needed was in there, just kind of spinning around in my skull, looking for a way to line up. And when it did line up, I'd know. I'd know why the guy at the Heavenly Hotel looked so familiar, and why it was taking me so long to remember. Marissa called me that night. She told me how all anyone at school wanted to talk about was how I'd broken Heather Acosta's nose. I broke it? Yeah, she's got it all bandaged up, and brother, is she milking it for all it's worth. She's saying how you should have gotten expelled instead of suspended. Now, what I really felt like doing was laughing. Not because I'd broken Heather's nose, but because I could just see her running around with her torch top and earrings and a taped up nose. She told me to tell you she hopes you've learned a lesson. Can you believe that? She hopes I learned a lesson? Yeah, and this girl, Tanil, went around all day trying to get people to donate to the Help Heal Heather Fund. The what? Who's Tanil? Some copycat friend of Heather's. I saw her in the bathroom before school clamping on a bunch of earrings. Someone told me she'd do anything for Heather because she thinks she's the coolest. And what's this fund for? They gonna buy her crutches for her nose or something? Well, that got Marissa laughing, and hearing her laugh made me laugh, and pretty soon we were just busting up talking about two little crutches hanging out of Heather Acosta's nose. Then, when we're both catching our breath, Marissa said, she asked me for money. Heather did? No, Tanil. She said it was partly my fault that Heather's nose was broken, so I should contribute to the fund. I almost didn't ask because I was afraid of what I might hear, but I couldn't resist. Well, did you? No. I told her to drop dead. I told her you were my best friend, and anyone who pricked you in the butt with a pin deserves to have her nose broken. I tossed that around some and decided that what Marissa probably said was, "Sorry, I don't have any money today." So I said, "Thanks, Marissa, but what did you really say?" "What do you mean? That is what I said, exactly." Well, I couldn't help smiling. I mean, Marissa Mackenzie finally told someone to bug off, and she did it sticking up for me. Then Marissa says, "So what did you do today? Did you have fun on your day off?" Grams was taking a bath, but I still kept my voice down when I told Marissa about going into Madame Nashira's house of astrology. "No way! Without me? That's no fair." "So next time you punch Heather in the nose." Then I told her about running into Brandon and snooping around on the roof of the mall, and how I discovered Grams at Hudson's, and about how Mrs. Graybill called the police. And I'm in the middle of telling her how Officer Borsch mm-hmmed while he looked across at the Heavenly Hotel, when she pipes up with, "We should go there." "What do you mean, go where?" "To the Heavenly. We should go there." Well, I know exactly what Grams would say if she knew we were talking about going over to the Heavenly Hotel. It would be a very short conversation starting with the letter N and ending with the letter O. I stretched the phone cord as far as I could get from the bathroom. "No way!" "Why not? You said it was cool." "Yeah, but come on, just for a minute. We'll just go in, check it out, and leave." I twisted the cord some and huddled up to the wall. "Now?" "Sure, I could be there in 10 minutes. How about after dinner?" "Cool. Meet me in front of Maynard's at what, 7? Okay." I got off the phone feeling like I'd just made a big mistake. I wandered into Graham's room and peeked through the curtain at the big pink Heavenly Hotel sign coming on across the street. And I started thinking, of all the rooms at the hotel, why did the guy pick Gina's? Did he know there was money in it? And standing there, staring at that pink sign buzzing in the air, it hit me. Marissa and I were going into Heavenly Hotel, all right. Only it wouldn't just be for a minute. Marissa's never on time. Unless she's waiting to see the inside of the Heavenly Hotel, I guess, because there she was at 7 sharp, waiting for me in front of Maynard's. I said, "Hey, are you ready?" She starts biting a nail. "Are we really going to do this?" "Sure, come on. This was your idea, remember?" When we get to the Heavenly Hotel, I say, "Now listen, this is no big deal. Just act like you belong." She whispers, "What do you mean, like I belong?" "You know, like it's your house." "Oh, okay," she whispers. So I whisper back, "Do you talk like this in your own house?" She blinks. "No." "So stop whispering." I open the door and march right in, and there's the same guy chomping on a cigar, keeping an eye on the other people in the lobby from over the top of his newspaper. There are 2 men in the Pope hat chairs. One is wearing a corduroy coat and old Nikes and is sitting near the window reading the last few pages of a tattered paperback. The other is wearing a jogging suit, and he has his feet up on a coffee table. He's leaning way back, blowing smoke rings toward the ceiling. But the cigar chomper isn't watching the 2 of them as much as he's keeping his eye on 2 other men huddled up near the staircase. They're both dressed in blue jeans and t-shirts. One of them's carrying a small paper bag, and even though they're keeping their voices down, you can tell they're having some kind of argument. A man with blonde hair and a goatee comes out of the elevator, and as he's passing by the front desk, the cigar chomper nods at him. The blonde guy stops and says, "Ed says to send up his mail if any's come. I'll be back in a day or 2 to check on him. Maybe bring him some smokes." So while Cigar Man is busy listening to him, I give Marissa a nod and head for the stairs. She grabs me by the arm and whispers, "Where are we going?" "Up. Come on." Her ears really move back a little, like someone's pulling her by the hair. "Really?" I just smile like I know what I'm doing, but my heart's starting to skip around inside because I know I don't. "Sure, come on." When we're about 5 steps away from the staircase, the blonde guy takes off and Cigar Man growls at us. "Going somewhere?" I look at him and say, in a way that could mean yes or no. Who knows? I sure didn't. He folds his paper and kind of pushes his lips out with that cigar right smack dab in the middle. He shows his teeth and says, "What was that?" All of a sudden, Marissa walks right up to him like a wind-up toy that's about to pop a spring. "This is such a cool hotel. It's awesome." She notices the funny green tiles on the counter. "Sammy, come here. Have you seen these?" Well, the guys by the stairs quit arguing. The man by the window puts down his book, and those smoke rings seem to just hang there in the air. I move over to the counter and keep my voice down as I say to the guy, "We were just going to visit someone we know." He throws his head back and laughs, and that cigar is bobbing up and down, about to fall out, when all at once he stops laughing, puts down the paper, and growls, "Don't mess with me. You're not here to visit anyone." He rolls the cigar to the other side of his mouth. "You've had your little look-see, now skedaddle." Marissa makes a beeline for the door, but I grab her and the shirt and kind of bungee her back. "Actually, sir, we are here to see someone." He raises an eyebrow and Marissa looks at me like, "We are?" He gives me a hard look, then says, "Hey, you're the gal that was here the night of the ruckus." I smile at him. "Yes, sir, and I was on my way up to see Gina." "Gina, I shrug. "Or Madame Nashira. Whatever you want to call her." He chomps on his cigar for a minute, staring me in the eye. Finally, he picks up the phone. "Let me see if she's in." "She's in, all right." He tries to keep his voice low so we can't hear, but we can anyway. "Gina? Yeah, there's a couple of kids here to see you. The girl that was here the night you got hit and some friend of hers." "You sure?" "All right, I'll send 'em up." He puts the phone down. "She's in 423, 4th floor, turn right, knock twice." I say thanks, and off we go. Now, from the lobby, the heavenly stairs look just like an ordinary staircase. But after the first 4 steps, you turn left, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of all these mirrors. No kidding. There's a wall of mirrors on both sides, and they're a little bit warped, so you're surrounded by a lot of mutant reflections of yourself. And all those reflections kind of go on and on forever because one wall's bouncing off the other. Anyhow, we make it to the 4th floor, head down to 423, and knock. Twice. Gina answers the door looking like she just got up. She wraps the tie of her bathrobe and says, come in, with a cigarette wagging up and down in her mouth. By now, I've gotten the idea of what Grams meant by seedy. The wallpaper's peeling off, the paint's pretty dirty, and looking across the room, I can see the bed's lopsided and the mirror on the far walls cracked in 2 places. Marissa and I are standing there staring at each other, each wishing the other one would just say, come on, let's go. When Gina says, well, are you coming in or what? So in we go. She says, sit, and points her nose at the bed. So we sit kind of on the edge of the bed and watch as she tries to rake her fingernails through her hair, and I'm wondering, how do you start over in the morning with a hairdo like that? It's all kind of clumped together and sideways, and strands of it are sticking straight out in places, looking like something a plumber would find in your pipes, and say, aha, here's your problem, ma'am. Marissa nudges me and flicks what is left of her fingernails with her thumb. Wow. I don't know if she's thinking, wow, has she got a lot of chewing to do, or wow, that's some paint job on those nails, because Gina's fingernails aren't black with moons and stars anymore. They're silver with black comets shooting across them. Gina takes a long drag off her cigarette, then rakes the hand with the cigarette through her hair. Now, I'm starting to worry about fire. I mean, she's whipping that cigarette around right next to about a gallon of hairspray, and I can just see them coming together to light up her head like the 4th of July. She rakes a little more while she's looking at us, gawking at her, and finally she says, so, here you are. Want to tell me why? Well, actually, I was wondering, do you think whoever stole your money knew it was there? She blows some smoke straight up, and it kind of gets lost in her hair for a minute before floating away. I don't know how he could have. Well, was anybody else's room broken into? She shakes her head. Just lucky little me. I look over at the door. Is that a new doorknob? She smiles out of one side of her mouth. That it is. The creep snapped the other one right off. He snapped it off? She taps some ashes into a styrofoam cup, with a vice grip or pliers or something. At least that's what the cop said. Officer Borsch? He was up here? We're talking about the fat one, right? I nod. Yeah, he was up here for all of 30 seconds. I stand up and look out the window, watching the cars go by for a minute. Then I check out the senior high-rise and decide it's easy to get mixed up on which apartment is ours and which one is Mrs. Graybill's. Finally, Gina says, "What you looking for?" I look down at the intersection. Nobody knew about the money? Nobody? Nobody. She's shaking her head, but all of a sudden she freezes. Wait a minute. Then she shakes her head again. Nah. What? What are you thinking just now? She rakes her hair again. Never mind, it's nothing. I stare at her and she says, "I ran into a girlfriend of mine, all right, down by the corner store. I didn't even know she was in town. We got to talking, that's all." Well, what were you talking about? She looks at me like it's none of my business, but then says, "The usual, appointments, the weather, you know." "And you said something about having a bunch of money?" "Not exactly. I mean, I might have said something about going to open a bank account in the morning." She takes a deep breath. "Because I didn't like carrying so much cash around." She adds real fast, "But Candy wouldn't do a thing like that to me. We're in the same kind of boat, if you know what I mean." "Well, how about her boyfriend or something? Maybe she told him about it." She doesn't have a boyfriend." Gina shakes her head. "I shouldn't have even brought it up. There's no connection. Zero." I think about this a minute. "You said you didn't know she was in town? Did you give each other your addresses?" Gina blows smoke through her hair. "Sure. I told her I was staying here. Big deal. It wasn't her, so drop it, all right?" "How about somebody that overheard you talking? Was there anybody else around?" She looks out the window and mutters, "We were standing right there having a smoke." She turns back to me. "How do I know? I don't think so. There wasn't anybody standing next to us, if that's what you mean. Maybe some people came in and out of the store. I don't know. I just don't remember." "What about TJ? How long have you known him?" She snorts. "That loser? For years. He'll never change." I say real quietly, "Did he know about the money?" She shrugs. "I don't think so." Then she laughs and says, "He hasn't got enough initiative to pull something like this off. TJ is much too lazy." "Even if he was having money problems?" She hesitates. "What do you mean?" "I don't know exactly. He was talking to some guy on the phone about coffee beans and pork bellies, something about borrowing money from his dad." She frowns a bit and says, "TJ? Borrowing from Maynard? That's bad news." She looks down the street. "You think Tej did it?" "I don't know. I don't even know where you were when it happened. How come your purse was home and you weren't?" She shivers and grinds out what's left of her cigarette. "I was home. I was in the shower. I didn't even know someone had been here until I noticed the doorknob was busted. Nice piece of work, huh?" My brain's starting to tingle a little. "Is the guy with the cigar down there all the time?" "Andre? Yeah, he is. I swear he sleeps there." "So how's a guy come into your room and steal your money without Andre seeing him first?" Her jaw drops a little. "That's a good question. That's a very good question." We all look at each other a minute, then Marissa breaks the silence. "Maybe the guy who broke in lives in the hotel." Gina rakes her hair. "Oh, that's a happy thought." After a minute, she starts up another cigarette, so I say, "Well, we'd better be going. Maybe you should call the police and talk to them about all of this." She blows out smoke. "Yeah, maybe I should. I mean, why didn't they ask me any of this?" She walks us to the door. "I appreciate the concern, honey. Thanks for coming." We wave and say bye, and Gina's about to shut the door when she pops back out and calls, "Hey, don't go that way. Those stairs will make you puke. Take the elevator." She waves her cigarette. It's at the end of the hall. Marissa and I look at each other and shrug, then head over to the elevator. And we're standing there waiting for it to open when Marissa says, "This place gives me the creeps." I nod and say, "No kidding." And that's when I notice something. There's a door at the end of the hall that's got a push bar instead of a knob. And even though there's no sign telling me so, I know it's not a janitor's closet. The elevator dings and clanks open, and I say, "Hold on a sec, okay?" And then I hurry over to the door. I'm about to push on the bar, but something stops me. Instead, I push on the door without touching the bar, and sure enough, somebody's jammed the latch to keep it from catching. "Marissa, come here, quick!" I look outside, down 4 flights of fire escape stairs. Marissa comes running over. What's going on? I check the jam. Sure, I'm going to find something wadded up inside it, but there's nothing there. Then I notice something on the ground. Crammed along the bottom edge of the door, keeping it from closing all the way, is this paper napkin rolled up so tight it looks like a piece of dirty chalk. I pick it up and unroll it. And scribbled across the napkin are the letters HH, and underneath them, the number 423. Chapter 14. Holy smokes, Marissa says when I show her the napkin. All of a sudden, I want out of there. I say, come on. And before you know it, we're pounding down the back side of the Heavenly Hotel like our underwear's on fire. We wind up in the middle of a bunch of gnarly bushes and garbage, fenced in by chain link on one side, with really high cinder block walls on either end. And I know there must be a way out, but it feels like we're trapped. I climb up the chain link a ways and say, come on, there's a vacant lot on the other side. Normally, chain link's pretty easy to climb, but this fence wasn't tied down to the posts, so it was really wobbly. And the higher we got, the more it leaned back until it felt like you were going to pull the whole fence down. So we're almost to the top, swaying back and forth with the fence clanking like the chains of a ghost, when Marissa loses her footing and falls. Hey, are you all right? I call. I think so, she says, but you can tell she's landed pretty hard. I call, hang on, and some clanging back down. I come clanging back down. Marissa swears she's okay, so I start digging around the trash, looking for something to tie the fence back to the post. Mostly there's just paper and candy wrappers and bottles and cans, but finally I turn over this beat-up lettuce crate, and underneath it is an old tennis shoe. I take the shoelace out of it and rub it along the link of the fence until it snaps in two. Then I reach as high as I can and tie the chain link to the post. After that, I climb up, wrap the other piece close to the top of the fence, and flip myself over the top. Come on, it's easy now. Marissa does great until she gets to the top. I'm on the ground waiting for her to swing her second leg over when I hear, oh no, oh no, what's the matter? She's all twisted up on the top of the post. I'm stuck. Just hold on to the post and swing your other leg over. You'll be fine. But I can't. I'm stuck. My pants are stuck. Just unhook them. She says, I can't. And she sounds pretty scared. So up I go to unhook her pants, and I'm halfway up when the top shoelace snaps, and the whole fence starts bending back. Marissa screams, and her pants rip, and there she is with one leg on one side of the fence, her underwear flashing like a flag of surrender. I yell, hold on to the post, because it looks like she's about to fall. She pulls herself to the post and hangs on, shaking. Finally, she swings her leg over and starts coming down, one little step at a time. I help her down, and when she lands, she's still real shaky and doesn't want to go anywhere right away. So we head across the lot to this old crooked pepper tree that has branches drooping all around like a giant hula skirt. We duck underneath the branches so Marissa can have some privacy while she's checking out the rip in her pants. And after a few minutes, she peeks back at the Heavenly and says, that was scary. I laugh. It was your idea, remember? She laughs too. Bright idea. I take the napkin out of my pocket and study it some more. Then I hand it over to Marissa and ask, do you recognize this? She takes it from me. It's a double dynamo napkin. It sure is. All of a sudden, spiders are dancing on my back. You know, I think the note that got shoved under Mrs. Graybill's door was on a double dynamo napkin too. Are you sure? I only saw it for a second, but yeah, I think it was. I looked at her. You want to go to the police station with me? She shows me her pants. Like this? No way. Aw, come on, Marissa, what's a little rip in the pants? This is no little rip. It's bad enough we have to go clear up to Westler Street to get back to Maynard's. There's no way I'm going to the police station. We could take a shortcut. I bet there's a way through at the back of the lot. She scowls at me. Yeah, like the last shortcut we took. No, really, look. See those bike tracks? They go straight through here. And I'm following these parallel bike tracks to the far end of the tree, pushing aside the branches, about to show Marissa that the tracks lead to a shortcut, when they stop. Marissa thinks that's real funny. Aw, too bad. I really wanted to get stuck on top of another fence. She walks toward the sidewalk, laughing and holding up the seat of her pants. I still can't quite believe the bike tracks don't go anywhere, but after I think about it for a minute, I decide that kids must just park their bikes under the tree when they come to hang out in the shade. I catch up to Marissa, and pretty soon we're turning onto Broadway, hurrying toward Maynard's. That's when I notice a police car parked outside the Heavenly. I look at Marissa, and she looks at me, and she says, "No way, Sammy. I'm not going back in there. We just ripped up my pants getting out of there." "Just for a minute? Don't you want to know what's going on?" "No, there is no way." Turns out we didn't have to go in because while we were busy arguing, Officer Borsch comes out. He does a double take when he sees me, and right away he gets in my face. "Where do you get off going in there like that? You rile people up, and then I have to talk myself blue in the face trying to convince them there weren't any clues then, there aren't any clues now, and there are never going to be any clues." Well, let me tell you, there's nothing blue about Officer Borsch's face. It's as red as a hothouse tomato. And looking at him, well, I try real hard to keep the corners of my mouth down, but it's hard. I mean, I can just see it. There's the Borsch man, all saddled up with guns and flashlights and batons and stuff, having to take it while Gina blows smoke in his face and yells at him. His forehead's getting redder and sweat's starting to drip down his sideburns. "Listen, girl, you stay away from this hotel, and you stay away from police business. I don't have the time to deal with your shenanigans." I'm thinking about that napkin in my pocket, trying to decide whether I should show it to the guy who looks like he's about to pop his thermometer. Part of me saying, forget it, but another part reminds me that somewhere pretty close by is a guy I waved at while he was taking money out of a purse. So I reach into my pocket and pull out the napkin. Actually, I was on my way over to the police station because I thought you might want to see this. For a minute, he just stands there steaming. Finally, he says, "What is it?" like he really doesn't want to know. I hold it out a little farther. It's something I found rolled up in the fire escape door of Gina's floor. It was keeping the door from latching. "What were you doing nosing around?" he starts, but then he decides to shut up and take the napkin. He looks at me, then back at the napkin and mutters, "HH 423. He squints at me. "Just how did you find this?" So I tell him about taking the elevator and seeing the door and about how it wasn't latched. And when I'm all done, he says, "Is that so?" I didn't really like the way he said it, so I said, "Yeah, that's so. And in case you hadn't noticed, it's a double dynamo napkin. My grandmother told me you came over about the note that her neighbor got. I only saw it for a second, but I think it's a double dynamo too." He's still looking at me like I'm some dumb kid, so I say, "I thought you might want to compare the handwriting." He squints at me. "You're clever. You're real clever." I squint back at him and say, "What?" because he acts like he thinks I'm lying. He gives me a smug little smile. "I know what you're trying to pull here." I take a step back. "What are you talking about?" "You think I can't see through all of this? You write a threatening note to an old woman, and then to throw the blame on a burglar you claim you saw, you manufacture a clue and pretend you found it over at the Heavenly Hotel." He forces out a laugh. "Of course the handwritings are going to match. They're both yours." Well, my jaw must have about touched my high tops. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Marissa says, "Now wait a minute." He just smirks. "Clever. Very clever." Then his face scrunches up so his eyes look like vents in the crust of a pie. "I'll take this into evidence, all right, and if you ever try to mess with me again, I'll see to it that you spend some time away from that ritzy little house of yours." He throws open the police car door. "Remember that the next time you decide to manufacture some evidence." Marissa and I just stand there with our mouths wide open. Finally, she whispers, "Unbelievable." I nod. "Yeah. Next thing you know, he's going to decide I'm the one who stole Gina's money. And even though it sounds ridiculous, part of my brain's telling me that if I don't figure out who did, that might be exactly what happens. That's the end of chapter 14 of Sammy Keys and the Hotel Thief. We'll be back next week with more.